time. Showing by there?
Yeah.
Okay. Just you remind me whether we did that the chanting of here or on no, Gita class.
No, in the Gita class, Swamiji.
Gita class. Okay.
But we can do if you want. And Sushmaji, if you could focus Swamiji, please. I can't do it. I'm not the
I
host.
actually have made you the co-host, Shaurinji, and also I've made Swami. I put spotlight on Swamiji.
Okay. Now I got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Swamiji.
So if we are ready, we can start. What I would like to do is we will chant a few verses that we have already studied. I will go slow, and then if you can follow with me, and you can mute after that, right? It's just that when we chant the scripture, it assumes a little stronger proportions in our mind. Let us begin by chanting the Sahana Bhavatu mantra. First Asotama and then Sahana Bhavatu. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Vasato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. Jantunam Narajanma Durlabhamata Pumstvam Tato Viprata Tasmad Vaidika Dharma Marga Parata Vidvatvamasmad Param Atmanatma Vivechanam Svanubhavo Brahmatmana Samstitir Muktirno Shatajanma Koti Sukrutai Punyair Vina Labhyate Durlabham Trayame Vaitat Daivanugraha Hetukam Manushyatvam Mumukshutvam Mahapurusha Samshrayaha Labdva Kathanchit Narajanma Durlabham Tatrapi pumstvam stutiparadarshanam yastvatmamuktaŭ nayate tamudadhi sahyatmaha swam vinihantya sadgrahat itah konvasti mudhatma yastu swarte pramadyati durlabham manusham deham prapya tatrapi paurusham vadantu shastrani yajantu devan kurvantu karmani bhajantu devata atmaikyabodhena vinapi muktir na siddhyate brahma shatantarepi amrutatvasya nashasti vitte netyeva hi shrutihi braviti karmano mukte ahetutvam sphutam yatah ato vimukyai prayateta vidvan sanyastabhahyartha sukhasprahassan santam mahantam samupetya deshikam tenopadishtartha samahitatma. Previously, we had studied how precious this human birth is for us. After having gone through several births according to Hindu philosophy, we have received this rare human birth. And the scriptures say that even the gods wish to become humans so that they can become immortal, they can become one with the divine. So, having received this human birth, we should make all efforts to achieve to the highest goal of our life. That is the conclusion that Sri Shankaracharya brings to us through these previous verses. In the verse that we studied last, Sri Shankara refers to the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, wherein the Rishi Yajnavalkya is ready to leave his hearth and home and all possessions, as well as his two wives, Maitreyi and Katyayani. In those days, people used to count the riches of a person by the cattle head that they had. How many cattle you have? Godhana, it's called. How many cattle you had? So Yajnavalkya had thousands, several thousand heads of cattle. And so he wanted to give up all of that. And he asked his wives to take charge of them. But Maitreyi, who was the first wife, the older wife, was much wiser. She said, if you are going to give up all of these, for the sake of something that is much richer than what you had here, then what is the use of me having it here? I want to achieve to that highest. See, this seeking was there in both men and women. Upanishads talk about the great Vagvadinis or the great scholars who were women. In fact, some of the Upanishads are dedicated to women. Probably they were composed by women, probably. So, while Shankaracharya said in one of the verses that, or two verses, that it is indeed very rare to get a man's birth, but we interpret it to say that it is human birth, not just a gender personality called a man. So that is where we left last. And we will go to the 8th verse, which we just chanted. Ato vimuktiyai prayateta vidvan. Therefore it says, vimuktiyai, for the sake of liberation, vidvan prayateta. Who is a vidvan? A person of learning. Vidvat, or knowledge, or learning, that keen interest, that keen seeking to learn something is there. Such a person is called as vidwan. So it says, a person of learning must strive strive his best for liberation. Vimuktiyai prayateta. One must strive for achieving to that. Sanyasta, how to do that? He says, Sanyasta bahyartha sukha spriha san. Sanyasta, that means giving up. That is one of the meaning is sanyasa. Sanyasa is giving up. I will come to that a little later. The real meaning of sanyasa. Sanyasta bahya artha. So artha sukha spriha. Spriha means craving. It also means addiction. Bahyartha, the objects of the senses. Bahya means external. External objects. The craving for enjoyment of external objects. The pleasure of the external objects, one must try to give that up. Throughout history, we see that without tyaga, without giving up something, no gain can be achieved. Even if you want to buy something, you need to part with the money. You should not expect something to come to you for free. Everything has a cost behind it. In the same way, if we have to achieve the highest goal of human life or human birth, the greatest thing that we need to give up is this intense craving. And I said it is an addiction, because we get addicted to things, to the objects that we handle. It may be persons, it may be objects. So we get attached to it, and we are not satisfied by getting it once. We want it time and again and again. We want to have the same experience. But unfortunately, the same experience cannot be had twice. This is the irony of pleasures in life. The same experience cannot be had twice. It may have similar experience, but it is not the same experience. So he says, Sanyasta Bahyartha. So instead of keeping on craving for the objects of the pleasures, why don't you go deeper within yourself and find that which will satisfy, which will satiate all of your cravings altogether. Once for all, you will be satisfied. Once for all, there will be a full stop to your cravings. So that's what he says. And then he says, Sanyasta. See, this term, sannyasa, has a deeper meaning. One meaning is to just give up. Nyasa iti sannyasa. The other meaning, so sannyasa, iti tyaga iti sannyasa. That means giving up something. But if you go into the etymological meaning of sannyasa, it says samyak nyasa. Nyasa means to keep something, to properly place something. In worship, in ritual worship, Hindu ritual worship, we have what is called as nyasa. You perform several nyasas whereby you install or you invoke the different deities within your body, and then you worship the divine. First of all, you invoke the presence of the different deities by touching certain parts of the body. You invoke the presence of the divine. So samyak nyasa means placing your desires, not desires, your aspirations in the right format. We'll use the scientific word, placing it in the right format. We have to place everything in formats, as we are aware of. So we have to place it in a proper format. Samyak nyasa is the proper format. What is the proper format for realization? The proper format is to give up that which is temporary, to give up that which is fleeting, to give up that which is impermanent, and to take up something that is long-lasting, permanent. So these are the two meanings. One is just giving up something, and the other is placing importance on the goal of human life, which is realization of the self or God realization, in other words. So, Sanyasta Bahya Artha Sukha. Now I am placing all my attention, I am placing all my energies in enjoying the objects of the senses. So instead, all those senses must be turned inward, and my focus, or I must place my focus on the supreme divine that is within myself. That is, in short, this idea of sannyasa. Sanyasta bahyartha sukha sprihasan santam mahantam samupetya deshikam tena upadishtartha samahitatma. Therefore, he says that duly approaching a good and generous preceptor, santam mahantam, this is a wonderful word that he says, and samupetya deshikam. Deshika means a teacher, and who is santam, that means who is sat, who is good, who is not a person who will take you for a ride, if I can use that word, santam. And then he says mahantam. Mahanta means anta. Anta means the inside is mahan, that which is very broad, who has a very generous, a very broad-hearted person. One who does not look into all of your past faults, who will look into the good that is within you and use the tools in order to make you a better person. Such a person is called as Mahantam. He is not a small-minded person, who is a very large-hearted person. That is called as Mahantam. Samupetya Deshikam. So such a teacher who is good, who is compassionate, who is large-hearted. So approaching such a teacher, one must fix our mind on the truth inculcated by such a person, him or her, doesn't matter, by such a person. Of course, he uses another word over there, duly approaching. Duly means with humility. In the Mundaka Upanishad, the characteristics of a qualified guru is given. You might like to read it up. Guru is one who has a very large heart, who is himself a great scholar, but he has understood the essence of the scriptures, not merely by intellect, but by own experience. Such a person can be called as a guru, who has total total unselfishness in yourself. That is the idea that he mentions over here. Santam Mahantam Samupetya Tena Upadishta Artha Samahitatma. The other word that he uses is Artha Samahita. He has imbibed the truth that is mentioned in the scriptures, but who is ready to impart those truths to you, who is liberal in sharing his treasures with you. That is the idea. So here the guru has been eulogized here, and it also gives the characteristics of a guru, Santam Mahantam, one who is Sat, who is truthful, who is good, and who is a broad-hearted person. We will move on to the next verse. Uddharedatmanatmanam Magnam samsaravaridhau yogarudhattvamasadya samyak darshananishthaya. This is a very significant verse, which we will try to understand. This is, in fact, following the Bhagavad Gita's famous verse, Uddharet Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avasadayet Atmaiva Hyatmano Bandhur Atmaiva Ripuratmanaha. So Shankaracharya takes the first stanza over from there and then uses it in this verse. Uddharet Atmana Atmanam. It means one should recover oneself. That is the meaning that is given by the translator here. Uddharet means one must raise oneself. One must uplift oneself. Uddharet means uplift. The correct meaning probably will be one must uplift oneself. How? Atmana. The term Atman is used in has two meanings here. It has many meanings, but it has two meanings here. One is this self, this personality that I am. The egoistic personality who is attached to his body and mind. That is called as the Atman, I. This personality is Atman here. But the other meaning of Atman is the self, the all-pervasive spirit, which is resident in me, which resides in me, that is called as the Atman. Just as air is existing everywhere, or space is existent everywhere, but it is present more definedly or in a more understandable manner or in a more approachable manner, usable manner. When I put on the fan, then I have more of air to inhale. So I confine space within the room and I say this space is either warm or this is cold. So that's how we say. In the same way, Atman can be compared to this room or to this limited being, but it is unlimited. We all know that it is unlimited. Anyway, so Uddharet Atmana Atmanam. One must uplift oneself by one's own self. And taking cue from Sri Krishna's words from the Bhagavad Gita, Na Atmanam Avasadayet. In our Gita class, we have studied this in great detail. I will not go to such details here. So it says, Na Atmanam Avasadayet. Do not look down upon yourself. See, self-hate is one of the worst hatred that we can cause to anyone. Of course, self-hate is the worst hate that one can. So do not try to hate yourself, because within you there is this infinite divine manifest all the time. Na Atmanam Avasade. So here we will stick to this this text here. Uddharet Atmana Atmanam. One should recover oneself. Maganam Samsara Varidhau. We have got immersed in this Varidhi. Varidhi means the ocean. Ocean of samsara. Samsara. That means that which sarati iti samsaraha. Samyak sarati. Sarati means that which is flowing, that which is not stable. That is called as samsara. Sara means that which is not stable. Sriti, like a snake is called as sarpa. It comes from the same root. So it is moving all the time. So samsmarati, samsarati, that means it is moving all the time. The river is moving all the time. This samsara, this universe where we live in, this world where we live in, is always in a state of flux. It is always in a state of change. Every moment it is changing. The Buddhists give of course, they take it from the Mandukya Upanishad, Mandukya Karika. So the Buddhists use this analogy of a sparkler. In Diwali time, we use the sparkler. What do? We light the sparkler and we rotate it. As we keep on rotating it, the light, you will feel as if there is a ring of fire, a ring of light, isn't it? But is there a real ring, or is there fire everywhere there? No, it is an illusion, because these sparkles were there for a moment. It is a momentary sparkle. So because it was momentary, it appears as if there is a ring of light. So the samsara is like that. It keeps on moving, but it gives us an illusion that it is a real light. So that's why Shankaracharya or all our teachers, they say, try to overcome this attachment to the samsara. Sri Ramakrishna gives a very beautiful example. The boat, you take the boat into water, the boat can remain in water, but if water enters into the boat, then the boat will capsize. We are all in samsara. There is no escape for us. But let us not get this water of the samsara taint us or drown us. That is the idea. So he says samsara varidhi. So we are traveling in this ocean of samsara. And we have to use a boat. We have to use the waters for travel, no doubt. But let not the water get into the boat, seal all the holes in the boat, get rid of the water. So that's what samsara varidho, immersed in the sea of birth and death. So that is the nature of samsara, is that it is subject to birth and death. That is to say, beginning and end. Everything has got a beginning and an end. That is the idea expressed over here. Samsara varidho yogarudhatva masadya. How do I cross this ocean? What is the tool that I have to use in order to cross this ocean? Yogarudha. I must climb the steps. Arudha means to climb. To climb the steps of yoga. Yogarudha state. So he mentions from the Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, 4th verse, when one is attached neither to sense objects nor to actions and has given up all desires, then he is said to be yogarudha, or to have ascended the yoga path. So yoga arudha, one must climb the steps. We are reminded of the Shabarimala, in Shabarimala, those of you who are familiar with this Shabarimala pilgrimage, they practice penance, the devotee practices penance for 40 days and then climbs the 18 steps. It is steep steps and one climbs it very carefully. You can fall down, so they need to go up very carefully. And then when you go up, whom do you see? Yoga Arudha. Arudha means one who has climbed those steps and who is sitting in the state of yoga. You will see Ayyappa sitting there with his knees folded and in a state of penance, in a state of tapas. And he is sitting there and he is blessing. He, as a yogi, he is blessing us. So yoga rudha. So we have to take the steps. We have to climb the steps one after the other. So we cannot just jump the steps. If we do that, we will certainly fall down. So we need to carefully go up one by one, one by one. So yoga rudha state. While having attained the yoga rudha state, one should recover oneself immersed in the sea of birth and death by means of devotion to right discrimination. So this whole book, this deals with this subject of discrimination. That is, to choose the right and to reject that which is not right. To choose truth and to give up untruth. So this is the exercise that we are trying to practice through this book over here. Yoga Rudha. What happens is, when one climbs higher and higher, the pull of the lower, the external world becomes less and less. As Sri Ramakrishna says, as you go towards the east, the west is left behind. It is left behind and you go towards the east and you will reach the destination. So here we need to, Sri Shankaracharya is asserting that one must strive to achieve to this state of yoga. What is yoga? You are all aware of it. Yoga is joining of the lower self with the higher self. Right now, we are buffeted by the trials and tribulations of the world. We have lots of negativities as well as some positivities also. But all these are pulls which are holding us back. One must go beyond all this. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, one must go beyond virtue and vice. Virtue also one must be able to give up. Dana, dharma, and other things are all virtues. Yes, they will all be there, but it is not the summum bonum of life. It is not the be all and end all of life. You have to give that up also and go higher and higher and higher. Empty yourself up and go towards the divine. That is the idea here. In the 10th verse, we will go to the 10th verse. Sanyasta sarva karmani bhavabandha vimuktaye yatyatam panditair dhirair atmabhyasavupasthitai sarva karmani sanyasya bhavabandha vimuktaye. Bhavabandha vimukta. Why should I practice all of this? It says, Bhavabandha vimukta. I am trapped in this samsara. I am bound by this samsara. Nobody wants to be bound. Every being, from an ant to the highest evolved being, human being, is striving towards freedom. Some do it knowingly, some do it unknowingly. So freedom is our very birthright, we can say. Bal Gangadhar Tilak said, Swaraj hamara janma siddha hak hai. It is my birthright to have freedom, that is political freedom. But spiritual freedom is also necessary for us. We may have political freedom, we may have external economic freedom and all that, social freedom as well. But do we have spiritual freedom? Have I become free from the tensions, free from wants? That is the idea that Shankaracharya tries to point out at Sanyasya sarva karmani bhavabandha muktaye. Again, he is using the same term, Sanyasya sarva karmani. Even all the actions, good, bad, and the indifferent, all those actions also should be given up. Bhavabandha vimuktaye. Giving up all kinds of work. What kind of work? self-prompted work, selfish actions, sarvakarmani. These are self-prompted and selfish actions, which will be thinking only of me all the time. So this me has to become we. This me must go and we must take place. It must be replaced by the we. So, bhavabandha vimuktaye sarva karmani sanyasya. One must practice, the practice of realization can be had by the sannyasa, giving up of all works. And then yatyatam panditair dhirair atma abhyasa upasthitaihi. Yatyatam means one must make all effort. The wise and erudite person, pandita and dhira, two words he is using over here. Pandita is one who has studied. First of all, he used one word, vidvan. Vidvan is a person who is intellectually driven to understand things. And then comes the next stage is pandita. Panda atma vishaya anubhuti van. Pandita is one who has understood the essence of the scriptures and is striving to go deeper into the essence of the words that he has studied as a vidwan. So pandita, and who has had realization, pandita. So yatyatam panditaihi. And then he uses the other word is dhira. Dhira. Dhira means a person who is very steady is called as a dhira. A person who is very brave is also called as a dhira. But a brave person must have steadiness. One must not be flimsy. One must be very steady. So if our intellect is steady, if our mind is steady, then we can be called as a dhira. Another meaning is one is fearless. He who is fearless, or she who is fearless is not afraid of failures in life, is not afraid of the trials and tribulations in life, is totally confident that he will reach the goal, because his faith is in the grace of the divine, and of course in one's own grace of one's own mind, that my mind will give will be helpful towards me, and that I will attain to that goal. Such a person is dhira. So let the wise and erudite person, having commenced the practice of the realization of the Atman, give up all works and try to cut loose the bonds of birth and death. That is, one must always have this goal in front and strive towards that. See, one must have this, that the goal is very clear. For most of us, the goal is very hazy. We sometimes have great faith in divine, and at times our faith shakes. Some trials and tribulations come to us, and immediately our faith shakes. So Shankaracharya says here that no, you must become a dhira. And you can become a dhira, you can become a brave, and you can become a steady person only when your goal is fixed and that you are putting all of your effort towards going towards that goal. So that is where we will stop today, and we will take up the next. In fact, the topic changes after this, which we will take up when we meet in 2 weeks' time. In 2 weeks' time, exactly 2 weeks after this. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Swamiji.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you.
Dhanyawada, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Namaste.
Thank you,
Namaste.
Swamiji. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you.